Hey, Green Machine friends and fans of fun. We have a lot of comics to get to. We also have news. If you don't know, the Hickman House of X, Powers of X stuff is coming to an end in a couple months. And they're relaunching X-Men, New Mutants, Excalibur. Can you remember the other ones? Fallen Angels. There's one more. I can't remember it. But we are totally signing people up for subscriptions for them right now. So if you want to get in on those books, they're in Marvel Previews. You could also probably hit Previews World and see which books there are. And we would be happy to sign you up so you can get the number ones when they come out. Beyond that, we're going to get into our books this week. Oh, we wanted to also wish Lariance Iriarte a happy 50th birthday. He's given us some artwork that we're going to give away at the end of our show to subscribers. So wait around for that drawing. In the meantime, we're going to get right to the books. The first one is, I was so happy to see this, City of Bane. And this is, if you don't know, the last issue was very controversial. We didn't talk about it on the show, but it was heartbreaking. It pretty much involved Bane killing Alfred. So Alfred is dead as far as we know. I don't know, it could have been staged, but he seemed pretty dead. And it was really, I was pretty moved. How'd you feel about that, Yogi? Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of brokenhearted. So this takes place after, and this is Catwoman essentially helping Batman recover before she shows him how to take the city back. And really, this is sort of a rekindling of romance between the two of them, which, you know, I mean, they might have broken off the marriage, but it never quite died. And more importantly, if you pick up this issue, you do get to see a very Tom Selleck, Commissioner Gordon mustache on Bruce Wayne, which to me is always fun. Like that was amazing. And he's going by good old Matches Malone is his surname in this. Yeah, so I don't know. I think you should pick it up for that reason. The way Tom King writes, especially like love, for some reason really appeals to me. Like in this issue, they talk about like Cat asked Batman how he's doing, and he says like, you know, I'm fine, and she's like, I love the way you lie. And then, you know, they're on a beach, and she's, like, laying down, and he's like, I love the way you lie. Oh, so I like when Tom King does stuff like that. I don't know. So, City of Bane, issue number 78. It's pretty good. There's not a lot of action in this one. I will have to preface that. It's obviously the prep for the big fight, but it was a pretty good showing. If you're a Batman fan, you'll probably love it. Next is Venom, and my God, so much good stuff is coming out of this Absolute Carnage event. Oh, God. So the last issue ended with Sleeper. Now, if you don't know who Sleeper is, and I wouldn't blame you if you did, it was the First Host miniseries. Not a lot of people picked it up, and I'm not quite sure why, but it was the first appearance of Sleeper. Sleeper is a real ridiculously overpowered symbiote that can make chemicals and force chemicals into his bloodstream and control pheromones and, like, there's a bunch of stuff he can do. Yeah, he can turn invisible, yeah. So he's kind of an OP symbiote, and he showed up at the end of it to help Dylan and little Normie with their problems with the Carnage symbiote coming. So that was the end of the last issue. Now, the question is, do you think Dylan is going to get Sleeper? Do you think little Normie is going to get Sleeper? What do you think?
I would go on Venom Jr.
Yeah, I kind of want to believe that it's like going to go with Venom Jr. because Sleeper is the offspring of the Venom symbiote, and then, you know, Dylan is the offspring of Eddie, so to me that makes sense. But does Donny Cates ever do anything that is totally by the book? Not usually. No. He tends to write outside the box. So we'll have to wait and see. What you can tell from the cover is that's the Maker with all his stretchy limbs, and he has a symbiote, maybe a few. It's kind of a frightening thing. So you need to go pick this up. It was a good read. I had a really good time with it. More importantly, Dylan really is mini Eddie Brock. Like, it's great when he decides to do something. I love it. So this is Venom issue number 18, Absolute Carnage tie-in. Go pick this up for sure. Next is, well, it's the yin to the yang for Batman, and that's Batman Detective Comics. So this one takes place where Deadshot was on a plane with a bunch of billionaires trying to kidnap them, and then the plane wound up going down on a Pacific island, and Batman had to make a makeshift Batman outfit to rescue the billionaires and fight Deadshot. Does this story suck? Well, yeah, kind of. It wasn't that fun. But they're getting ready to do something pretty major in Detective Comics, and that's Nora Fries, which you know as Mrs. Freeze, is going to be unfrozen, and they keep referencing that throughout these issues. So you get that at the end. Keep in mind, I didn't totally hate this story, but some of it is kind of silly. Like, if Batman fashions a makeshift mask, complete with ears on an island and goggles to, like, cover his face, don't you think Deadshot would put two and two together and be like, oh, it's Batman, like, he was somehow over here? Like, no, they're just like, oh, you're just this crazy guy hanging out on this island with these old dudes, right? That's weak writing to me. But what do I know? I'm not a comic book writer. I shouldn't criticize like that. I wish I was. But nonetheless, I don't know. The end of the story seemed a nice wrap-up. It had two old World War II vets that had made peace with each other, a Japanese vet and an American vet, and they were living on the island. And I liked that story. I just didn't like how the rest of the story was handled. And, you know, it's kind of hit or miss with Detective Comics these days. I'm not sure. It's not always that great to me. But anyway, so that's Detective Comics 1011, and that's Tomasi, Deuce, and Guerrero. Go check it out if you like Batman. If you're anyone else, it really is wholly skippable. Plus, it's kind of mid something going on. You probably don't want to start there. Next is Go-Go Power Rangers Necessary Evil. And, you know, I had the teams mixed up for the longest time. I thought Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was the OG team, and Go-Go Power Rangers was like the new team, or the newer team. You know that's backwards, right, Yogi?
I do now.
Yeah, it was totally backwards. So this is like the OG Kimberly and Jason type team and stuff like that. And it comes on the heels of, they've forgotten the events of Beyond the Shattered Grid. They've had it wiped from their memory. And someone has showed up, a Blue Ranger who's sort of a phantom, has showed up to remind Jason of those events. Meanwhile, they're dealing with a kaiju pet bunny. Yeah. So it's very fun in Power Rangers. I had a pretty good time with it as somebody who hasn't been reading Power Rangers in quite some time. So Necessary Evil, yeah, go pick it up. Is it a good jumping off point? Yeah, I wasn't terribly confused as somebody who has not read this in quite a few issues. So issue number 23. This is Parrot, Grace, Mortorino, and Angelo. Yeah, sorry about your names. I'm messing up names. Next is Powers of X, issue number 4. Man, there is a lot to unpack with this issue. So, the X-Men, mostly Magneto and Xavier, decide to go and hit up, the Sinister Bar where Mr. Sinister is. And I love how they wrote Mr. Sinister in this, because he, you know, of all the things he is, the one thing that stood out the most about this whole scene is that he was terribly frustrated that Magneto's cape looked great and he didn't have a cape. I loved it. I loved how he was written. It was so entertaining. But more importantly, like after they deal with Mr. Sinister, they go on to Krakoa, and it shows the early days of the planning for Krakoa and how they came to talk to the sentient mutant island and make peace with it and build everything. So that was super interesting to read. All this Hickman stuff is just absurdly good. This is Hickman, Silva, and Gracia. If you're not on board with this, I mean, even if you're not an X-Men fan, like, my God, this is some good writing. You should go pick it up. So that's issue number 4. We have quite a few copies, so I don't think we're going to dry up until Thursday. But you better come Wednesday. Sorry, my throat grows if I don't drink. Next is one I was amazed to see. Didn't know we were getting an annual for, and that is, my God, are you ready?
Yes.
Moon Knight. This is Moon Knight, Acts of Evil, annual. And this is Moon Knight going up against Kang the Conqueror. What happens is, old Khonshu's got a few artifacts that some of his followers are placing in a temple in the past. And good old time-traveling Kang the Conqueror, as I like to call him, Space Grimace, he shows up and he decides that he's going to get his hands on these artifacts. And he's only held them for, I think, about 3 seconds. 3 seconds, when suddenly, they get taken away by Khonshu, and because they were taken away by Khonshu, it allowed Khonshu to keep Moon Knight in the time stream, while Kang the Conqueror was able to change it. So everything suddenly becomes very cyberpunk Kangy, I guess you could say. Kang's face everywhere in like a cyberpunk future. And Moon Knight doesn't understand why the timeline's changed or why it's different. He just sort of knows it's a little different. And he starts fighting Kang. And what that leads to is apparently because Khonshu still has the artifacts, Kang is hunting the artifacts individually. And so Moon Knight is jumping through time trying to save the artifacts. And he's encountering other Moon Knights from other timelines. It was amazing. I had such a good time with it. Granted, I'm a pretty big Moon Knight fan, so I love this stuff. But the way this story read was just perfect. It was a dope story. It was very Moon Knight. I love seeing Kang the Conqueror fail. Everything about this was great. This is Bun, Mustafa, Horik, and Spicer. Good friggin' job, guys. This was outstanding. Moon Knight Annual. If you love Moon Knight, go pick it up. If you don't know Moon Knight, honestly, go pick this up. It's a good showing. Get your feet wet before the TV show starts. Next is, man, this was such a good issue. And that is Rise of the New Gods, Justice League Odyssey. Now, what we found out last time was that, Darkseid is pretty much turning the Ghost Sector into his own new apocalypse. And then on top of that, he's turning the members of the Justice League Odyssey into his new gods. And everyone fit that except Jessica Cruz. She was not one of the new gods. She was not part of his plan. She just kind of showed up. So he killed her. He killed her in the last issue. And the repercussions of what happens is covered in this. And I can't go into too many details without spoiling it. I might spoil a tiny bit here. So if you don't want this spoiler, skip ahead 30 seconds.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
But, so she got hit with Omega Beams, and that actually shattered her ring, which isn't supposed to be something you can do. And parts of the ring got embedded in her hand, and she might be able to throw out Omega Beams now. I think that's dope. So just for seeing that, you need to go pick up this issue. It's so cool to see. But more importantly, my man Dexter is in this. So if you like the Red Lantern Cat, he's in this issue. Issue number 13, Justice League Odyssey, was a great read. I loved it very much. Go pick this up. Sorry for the spoiler, but I was just too excited. I couldn't wait on that one because I've never seen that happen with the Green Lantern like that. I think the closest is just Hal Jordan being able to make his own ring, right?
Yeah.
But having parts of the ring in you means you're a part of the ring too. Maybe, yeah, I want to know what that means. Oh, it's so cool. Okay, next is, it's Jason Aaron and King Thor. Now, if you don't know, Aaron and Del Mundo's run came to an end, and I think that was last week, actually, wasn't it? It was recent. Yeah. But it was basically Del Mundo signing off and them ending Thor and now coming up with King Thor. Now, this takes place way in the future at the end of Gods, and this involves the...
I don't know where. Down the mall.
So that involves the Girls of Thunder, which is his granddaughters, and then him, King Thor, and then they're fighting off Loki, and Loki is actually called the All Butcher, which that's pretty wild. Now, Thor comes to some conclusions because this is kind of at the end of time, and it's kind of at the end of Gods is what his conclusion comes to, and that means he might need to tap a certain person who is known for murdering gods. And if you know who I'm talking about, you might get really excited about this, especially since it's Jason Aaron writing this. So this is Aaron Ribici Savorsina. I will never pronounce that name right. I'm sorry. But this is issue 1 for King Thor. It's great. It's great. It's honestly really great. The art is amazing. It really does sort of feel like that Del Mundo art, but not quite as surreal. Like Del Mundo's stuff gets wild in how detailed it is. But it's really good. The writing, of course, is great because Jason Aaron just, I don't know, the guy can do no wrong. So yeah, issue number 1, go pick this up. Hey, our next book on the list is Silver Surfer Black, and this is good old Donny Cates, Trad Moore, and Dave Stewart. This art is so surreal. I mean, this is just a wild ride. It feels psychedelic. It almost feels like Hunter S. Thompson in space at times, like Fear and Loathing in Silver Surfer Black. Anyways, so what we do know is that Silver Surfer was helped out by Ego, and that he was helped out. He pretty much escaped Null, I think it was. Yeah, Null. He's also been infected by the symbiote planet, and he doesn't have much time. So, meanwhile, Ego himself was infected. He had something near his heart that was killing him. Turns out it's pretty much the, I don't know what you would call it, the incubator box for Galactus is what was up near Ego's heart. Yeah, and, you know, we know that old Norrin Rad Silver Surfer has some serious issues with, Galactus, and so he might mess up timelines doing that sort of thing. But is it a good read? It's a great read. On top of that, it's nice to see Uatu pops up in here, so we get the nice Watcher in this issue. Everything about this is great. The art is, like I said, you have to really like it because it's so surreal and wild. They play with form and color so much in this issue. But yeah, that's Silver Surfer Black, issue number 4. So go pick this up. You know who you are if you like this sort of thing. Next is Batman and the Outsiders, and my God, I like this whole cast of this book. I love the cast. I was super excited to see, Duke Thomas in another story. I was hyped about this story. However, it just hasn't hooked me. It feels like the writing is just all over the place, and I'm not quite sure why. They're pretty much setting off to rescue one of their friends that was kidnapped and brainwashed by Ra's al Ghul, and I stand by, it's still Ra's, not Rage. I don't care what anyone says. And on top of that, Black Lightning is sort of at ends with Duke Thomas because Duke Thomas failed at something. I can't really remember what it was, but I mean, it's just, I don't know, it feels really forced at times. The story is sort of all over the board. The art is redeeming. The art is great. I do love the art. I love these characters. I just, I don't know. It's kind of skippable. And it pains me to say that. As a giant Batman fan, of course, I tend to love everything Batman. But if you're not into Batman and the Outsiders, this is probably not the book to pick up. Maybe go pick up a couple earlier issues and catch up. Or maybe wait an issue and pick up another one. This is Hill, Soy, and Gadini. It's only okay at best. Next is Catwoman, and, well, it's a pretty good issue of Catwoman. I need to recap. I remember now. So, somebody decides to lock Catwoman in a metal box with some grenades and then leave. Is she alive or dead?
She alive.
I mean, if you don't open the box, you don't know. This is pretty much Schrodinger's cat. And they make that joke in there. They completely make that joke in there. So basically, Catwoman's had an assassination attempt on her life. This has been going on for a couple issues. She gets to the bottom of this. It's kind of nice. She handles it in a very Catwoman way. Granted, there is some mention of Batman stuff that's been going on in this, which is nice to see, but it's not really tied into the City of Bane stuff just fully. Not really. It was a pretty good issue. It's just, I don't know. It's not a terribly enthralling story. She's just, she has been hanging out with the Gentleman Ghost, which you remember
That was last issue.
Yeah, I like the Gentleman Ghost. I think he's a cool character that I don't know enough about. But it was okay. This was okay. If you're a Catwoman fan, you'll be totally happy with this. If you're a DC fan, it's okay. I don't think this is the issue for you to jump in on Catwoman, but it's okay. Issue number 15. Now we need to talk about a book that I completely hated. Completely 100% hated, and that's Chainsaw Reindeer. I tell you, I would rather give myself a paper cut in each of the fleshy webbings of between my fingers than read another page of Chainsaw Reindeer. This book was awful. And that's pretty much me being nice. Man. So this takes place with an abusive Santa who has a falling out with Santa Claus and decides he's going to go abuse the reindeers. His abuse for the reindeers includes beating them, and it hints at some kind of sexual assault. And then later on, that happens again with rednecks. And then the reindeer decides he's going to pretty much kill everyone in every city, big city across the world. That's the story. The story. I'm not kidding. There's pages of just blood and gore and like exploded. Arg, dead. Like, that is literally 3/4 of this book. It sucks. There's no plot. I guess the art was okay, if not a little generic. Yeah, the art was okay. The story was non-existent and a little offensive. Like, what little bits of it there were stuff that I would not be comfortable. I'm not even comfortable in selling this. You know, I gotta be honest with you. It sucked. So this is Chancellor Reindeer by Renes, Trigo, Daedalus, Johnson. I don't really know who they are. That's Action Lab Danger Zone. We should have known. I think the name sold us on it, and that's why we bought a few copies. It was horrible. This is crap. This should be buried out in the desert in some unmarked grave. Don't buy this. Did I go too far?
I don't know.
I feel like I might have went too far, but like that was an exceptionally bad book that I would not become. If you really, really want a bad book, come pick it up. I think it's pretty much everything you shouldn't do in comics. Anyways, so here's another book that, well, it was a little confusing at times. This is Coffin Bound. Coffin Bound centers around a gal who is pretty talented at fighting and has a little bit of power, who hangs out with a vision of sorts of a dead vulture skeleton in a bird cage walking around on a man's body. And she's running from somebody called the Earth Eater. I think his name is the Earth Eater. Yeah. And yeah, it's weirder from there. The art is pretty good. The art is a bit gritty. The storyline is confusing, and I'm not too invested in these characters. And I think that's the problem. Now, did I hate it? I didn't hate it. I kind of think I need to read a few issues to be comfortable with it, and right now I'm not terribly comfortable with it. It says Izzy Tyburn has promised the world that it won't have her in it. If it won't have her in it, it'll have nothing at all. I'm sorry, that font is like playing with my eyes. Chased by an unstoppable serial killer, she's retreading her life, leaving nothing behind but burned rubbered ash and sun-scorched bones of those who get there. So that's the storyline. There's also some weird people drugging people, and there's a cult of people that like cut off body parts of people. The story is really all over the place and wild and crazy and at times confusing. That doesn't mean I hated it. The art, it was kind of the proper amount of gritty. I really do want to read more before I decide the fate of this book, but I don't know. It was just sort of so-so. This is issue 2, right? I think it is. We reviewed the other issue, and I actually didn't have the worst time with the other issue. I'm being a little hard on books this week. Sorry. Next is Absolute Carnage, Symbiote of Vengeance. And this... Oh, okay. Okay, I know I'm being hard on books here, but I do have issues when... Because there was another time where a Ghost Rider got a symbiote. Do you remember that issue? Way back when we opened.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense to me, because how does a symbiote get a firepower when that's one of their weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happens again in this. And it actually involves the death of a Ghost Rider that is very lesser known to me, at least. I didn't know this particular character. But it was cool to see. We get to see old Danny back in the mix. We get I think 3 or 4 Ghost Riders in this. And then on top of that, we get to see a certain symbiote bike, which was pretty cool to see. Yeah. So, Absolute Carnage, Symbiote of Vengeance. Keep in mind, my issues with the whole, hey, you shouldn't be riding around with your face made of your weakness, certainly does play a role here. But I still had a really good time with this book. It was great. I mean, I am partial to everything symbiotes and Ghost Rider. Those are kind of some of my favorite characters. So I had a pretty good time with it. Go pick it up. This is by Brisson, Frigeri, and Sanchez Almara. Pretty good showing. Next is a weird one. This was weird. So we picked this up. It's called Starcadia Quest. It's in issue number 1. It looks very My Little Pony-esque. Does IDW do My Little Pony?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the art looks very similar, and I have a sneaky suspicion it's sort of the same artist. This involves very, what are these called? Chibi kind of cutesy characters. kawaii here.
Oh, kawaii. Yeah.
But I think they're called, I think chibi is like the actual big head, big eyes name for it. Anyways, these characters that look like almost anime versions of Scotty Young stuff, I guess you could say. And they're sort of dealing with a lot. There was a lot going on, and at times it was a little confusing, and I feel like I should have known these characters better, and I didn't. But I had a good time with them. Pretty much, mostly they're on the run from a very, I don't know, Orwellian sort of soldier robots, people that are trying to oppress people. And they're sort of on the run, you know, doing wacky hijinks and saying witty one-liners, and it was okay. But then I got to the end of this book, and it's like the last 5 pages are Cadia quest. And the following pages were inspired by the comic. Check out our app, and it's advertisement for an app, like just a game, and it's kind of weird. It felt to me like they made this comic strictly to sell this app, which, you know, I've seen weirder ways to promote something, but I don't know. This might be your jam. The art is pretty good. I would say this is not a bad comic for kids. There's not really any over-the-top violence. It was kind of fun. It was pretty neat art. It wasn't a terrible showing. So if that's your jam and you want to maybe have a companion app to go with it, Cadia Quest, issue number 1, come pick it up. Next is Age of Conan Valeria. Let's talk about the plotline for Age of Conan Valeria. So, her parents were killed.
Yes.
She was hanging out with her brother. Her brother was killed. And the only thing she has to go on is an immaculately made sword that she's trying to track down the creator of that sword. So this is Age of Conan Inigo Montoya. And it's actually pretty good. I had a good time with it.
My mind went straight to 5 fingers too. I was like,
No, it's very clearly, it seems like it's just Princess Bride inspired. And that's just the storyline, the plot, the general synopsis of the plot. That doesn't mean the whole thing is very much like it, because it's not. There's a lot of different action going on, and it's kind of a fun ride. I just felt like I was reading female Inigo Montoya, and that made me really happy and warm and fuzzy inside, because I love Princess Bride. This is issue number 2. We still have issue number 1, so it's not too late to get on board with this. If you like this sort of fantasy, you know who you are. I stand by that the Age of Conan stuff is some of the best fantasy on our shelves. It's really, really good. So, yeah, you really can't go wrong with this. Issue number 2, come check it out, see if you might like it. Next is, oh my god, Event Leviathan. And we need to talk about that last one. Was it the last one? I think it was the last one. Red Hood was on the run because Damian had accused him of being Leviathan, and pretty much a lot of the heavy hitters were lined up on a rooftop in Gotham. And Batman actually said, he's like, don't run, and Jason Todd is like, you trained me to, and then he like jumps off the building, and that was 2 issues back, and then the 3rd issue was like him fighting off everyone, and I'm happy to say that my man Red Hood beat everyone, kicked everyone's butt, and walked away, and it was great. It was awesome. So this follows the events where Amanda Waller caught herself with Leviathan, and Superman showed up, and this is what plays out after. It's not, there's not answers yet. They pretty much say that answers are going to come in the next issue, and I can't wait for that because I've been totally addicted to the storyline. The storyline is great. The art, I'm a little on the fence at times. Maliv's art sort of does that for me sometimes. It almost feels too gritty, but I do like most of the pages in this book. It's just, I don't know, his art never really identifies that much with me. It goes all over the place for me. But it's Bendis, it's Event Leviathan, it's a 6-issue series, it's pretty darn good. I would recommend, though, don't start with issue number 4 if you haven't been on board with us. Come pick up a couple other issues and go back a little ways before you start with that. But this is a darn good read. And the mystery is great. Like, we're guessing all over the place who Leviathan could be. And one of my buddies actually stumped me and said, like, well, could it be Damian? I don't know. Could it?
I've been saying it's Damian.
Well, the problem with that is they called Leviathan, I think they called him the Other. And Damian had accused Red Hood of being the Other. This is before they had declared him as Leviathan. And this was after, like, almost the entire Teen Titans team got killed because of their actions of that. So I don't think it would be Damian, but, man, would he be above setting up everyone to sort of show That it couldn't be. It could be. And then him throwing them off the scent by saying it's definitely Red Hood. It totally could be Damien. Wow. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I've got a couple picks. I think Luke Fox has been out of the scene for a while. Old Batwing has been gone for a while, and he has a lot of tech. And we haven't heard from him in a while, so he's certainly capable. Would he do it? I don't know. But yeah, so Event Leviathan, all types of speculation. If you like a good detective story, you should be at home with this one. Next is, hang on, I gotta take a drink. My throat is going. Next is the Punisher Kill Crew. This is issue number 2. This takes place after, Punisher has decided to avenge a bunch of kids whose parents had died. And the kids, he asked them all to draw pictures of the monster that killed their parents. And he's going out hunting for them, along with one of his buddies' families that got killed. He's going to go find them too. So he's taken the old, the Punisher wagon and strapped it to Thor's goat, hijacked the goat, and he's traveling through the 9 realms to kill pretty much everyone he can encounter. Everyone who's responsible for the invasion, he's going after him. And it's totally great. I had the best time with this book. I laughed most of the way through it. It's good Punisher stuff. He does some pretty... It's just the kind of Punisher hijinks you expect. Go figure, it's Jerry Duggan and Juan Ferreira. I always mess up that name. Anyways, Punisher Kill Crew number 2. It's not too late to get on this. You will absolutely not be confused. I mean, all you need to know is the premise that Punisher is going to extract revenge for the War of the Realms invasion. There you go. You're good to go. Punisher Kill Crew was a good show. Go pick it up. Next is Black Hammer Justice League. Nobody is reading this awesome book. I think it's because Black Hammer is not as well known, but we know the Black Hammer characters, and we love them, and they've been swapped. So the Black Hammer characters that were stuck on a farm, they've been swapped with the Justice League, and a good portion of the Justice League is now stuck on the farm, and the Black Hammer characters are in the DC universe. And they're kind of trying to recover from that. So we're seeing a bunch of cameos from a whole bunch of members of both the Justice League, Justice League Dark. It's been a fun run. So come pick this up, please. Issue number 3 is not too late to start with, but guess what? We got 1 and 2 because not many people are buying it, so come pick it up.
Next book on our list is, well, man, I feel bad doing this because it just felt like there was 3 or 4 weird books this week, and I tore into them. And granted, I didn't hate this book. It's just weird for me to be a little negative about comics. The story was confusing in this book, but I think it was intentional. So it involves a guy and a girl, one of whom is a detective. They sort of get into an argument, and the guy storms out. And then giant trees appear, and I'm guessing kills her guy, but it's not quite explained. And then meanwhile, the detective starts tracking another murder, and the world is not explained. The giant trees are not explained. And I think it's intentional because some of the people are not being forthright in their stories. Meanwhile, there's the detective crew is using solar-powered giant roaming laboratories to, I guess, research. Yeah, it's a weird story, really weird. It's like they've thrown around a bunch of ideas and stuck them together. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It's just, it doesn't work for the first issue. I think you need to give it 2 or 3 issues to get into it. I didn't hate it by any means. The art was great. I was trying to figure out what was going on with the story. I'm a little intrigued by the story. It hasn't quite hooked me just yet, but it's pretty close. Yeah, so this is Trees. If you like a detective story, you like a mystery, or you like Warren Ellis, so this is Warren Ellis and Jason Howard, come pick this up. Next is Ironheart, and we still have Ironheart hanging out in Wakanda with Shuri. And keep in mind, this is going to pain me to say this, Yogi, but somebody makes the Shuri joke. That was the mashup name from the Infinity Warps thing.
Can we collectively forget that the Infinity Warp...
I don't like the Infinity Warp stuff. However, it was funny. Their reaction to that name was essentially our reaction to that name, and that's nice to see. More importantly, the Shuri and Riri Williams team up is awesome. I'm having the best time with this team up. Yeah, it's great. It feels like an extension of Well, it feels like an Ironheart book and an extension of Shuri's book on the shelf. And more importantly, like, the art is really cool, but the way they're drawing Shuri, and keep in mind, I really liked the Shuri run that we had on our shelves. I thought the artist did an amazing job, but the way they're drawing Shuri in this is so awesome. Like, she just looks cool. The way her shawl flows, the way, just everything about it. It's great. And then we've got Silhouette. And Silhouette, if you don't know, is a, she's a disabled superhero who has crutches. And she can go invisible. And, well, she doesn't really go invisible. She has shadow powers. She goes into shadows. But, yeah, really, really cool character that I haven't seen in ages, it feels like. I can't remember. I recognized the character when she came out, but I couldn't remember what from. Anyways, so that's just fun to see. This Ironheart stuff is so good right now. If you aren't on board with this, I have to ask what you're doing, because it's pretty fun. More importantly, you get Shuri. And this artist just knocked it out of the park with this issue. So this is Ewing, so the writing makes sense. So it's Ewing, Vecchio, Jeffo, and Mila. Good job, guys. This was a great, great read. Next is Doctor Strange, and, well, Doctor Strange, this run, this Mark Waid and Jesus Saez run has been just so good. He lost control of his powers, was it? He decided he was going to make new powers. It was something he'd never done, so he made powers. He made artifacts of power. He did pretty much everything across the board. Now he's got like a magic sword at times. Meanwhile, what's the one thing he's never done? Well, he's
held down a steady relationship, but don't jump.
Held down a steady relationship. Okay, he's never done that. Combated alcoholism? No, I think he still drinks from time to time. No. He's never. He's never fixed his hands.
It's true.
I don't recall if he ever has, and I could be mistaken. But the way he does it is so cool. So basically, this one picks up after a ghost has scared a driver into wrecking her car and has put her son's life on the line. So her son needs a surgery right on the spot. So Doctor Strange has to figure out how to do that. And that actually involves taking a rather nefarious deal with a cool character that well, I don't want to spoil too much, but there are these really cool looking cursed spell books. You got to see it. It's so cool. So Doctor Strange, issue number 19. Is it a self-contained story? Yeah, pretty much it's a self-contained story. I think it's going to lead to more stuff, but you don't need to know anything building up to this point, and you can go from there. It was awesome. It was awesome. And keep in mind, I'm really partial to Mark Waid's writing, and I really, really do love Jesus Saez's artwork. I was so happy when he was back on this book, because I know he took a few issues off. Oh my god, it was so good. So anyways, Doctor Strange, issue 19, might honestly be my pick of the week. I'm not entirely sure, but come pick this up. It was great. Next is Red Sonja, and it was wild. I hadn't checked in with her for a while. So I guess she's on the run right now from another guy who has a walking tent, a rolling tent, a giant rolling tent. He's clearly a guy who lives in decadence, and so she's on the run with him. And meanwhile, she's hanging out with his former court jester who has cut off his own nose, or had his nose cut off. I think he's had his nose. No, he's cut off his own nose, but he's selling it as he's had his own nose cut off so that he can betray Red Sonja. It's kind of sneaky, so it's cool to see. Meanwhile, she's sort of trying to make ties with the forest people. So I don't know. Hyboria, or I think it's Hycaria, is where she's from. It's a wild place. It's very, very wild. But yeah, so it was kind of a fun read. This Red Sonja run has been pretty good overall. The art has been, I've liked the art. The storyline is, well, it's wild. It's certainly unexpected. It's going places I didn't expect. And hey, I mean, anytime you have anything involving the Conan sort of mythos, although is Red Sonja and Conan still in the same universe? They still are. They're not, because he's Marvel now.
He's Marvel.
So he's Hyboria, and they're calling her land Hycaria. But were they? They've crossed over so many times. I don't remember if they were in the same universe or just sort of met up later. I'm not sure. However, anytime between the two of them, Red Sonja or Conan, that they're not dealing with a blood god, you should totally jump on board, because 9 times out of 10, it's blood god. This issue, not Blood God. She's just sort of navigating her life and everything in the fantasy realm and trying not to get killed in the politics. So it's kind of a fun read. Next is the 13th Doctor, and this is issue 12. Sad face. This is the last of the series for this Doctor. Was it great? It was awesome. It was so good. I like the way they wrapped it up. I like the way it sort of looped back on itself, which I guess makes sense when you're dealing with time travel. The art was amazing. This is Jodie Hauser, Rachel Stott, Enrica Aaron Angiolini, and Comicraft. That's a crazy name. Anyways, so I've liked everything about this. The art is so absurdly cool. The story was great. It was never confusing as somebody who wasn't into like Doctor Who. I had a great time, and for a final issue, like, this is awesome. Granted, I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't go 13 issues for the 13th Doctor. That's kind of, it feels like a miss there, but it's a great issue, so come pick this up. But more importantly, look at that cover. That's such a dope cover. Like, that's good for a collection right there. Next is, well, it's Ronin Island. So this is feudal Japan. If feudal Japan had zombies. That's really all you need to know. It's pretty much a few people were becoming samurai and trying to become samurai, and they were sort of dealing with the politics of the shogun at the same time, trying to fight zombies and fight the zombie war, which has come to this island that didn't know that existed. And so they've been, and granted, they're not zombies, they're like monster dead, I guess you could say. Is it a good read? Yeah, it's a great read. All these characters, like the writer, it's Greg Pak, go figure. But the writer, he really sort of fleshes out like how these characters came to be, their hang-ups. He ties their past in with their present. It's just good writing. This is Greg Pak, Giannis, Milanogiannis, okay? And Irma Nivelia. These names are really hard for me. However, is it a good read? It's awesome. You really can't go wrong with this Ronin Island stuff, but you have to sort of like that feudal Japan motif or the undead motif, because they go hand in hand here. If you like Usagi, or even if you like Ninja Turtles, you'd probably have a pretty good time with Ronin Island. It's a fun showing. Next is Supreme Leader Snoke. What do you want from this comic, Yogi?
I want to know who Snoke is.
You want to know who Snoke is? Do you think they're going to tell you in this comic?
He's a clone. No.
No.
Probably not.
No, probably not. Probably not. I'm here to tell you that if you pick this up, is it disappointing? No, I had a really good time with it. It's pretty much, it's going over Kylo Ren's relationship with Snoke, and it does some backstory on Kylo Ren, and that's good. I had a good time with it. They might flash back to some old Star Wars locations, some old Empire and Jedi location. So yeah, so I thought that was cool, and it's nice to see the way some Jedis rise is the same way sort of Kylo falls, and that's cool to see. But if you're looking for answers as to who the heck Snoke is, no, sad face, you're gonna have to go to the guy who made Lost for answers. Yeah, Abrams. You're not getting them. So that was Taylor, Kirk, Hampshire, and Guru Effects, whose name I don't know what they do, but I do like that name. It's wild. It's weird. And that's Star Wars Age of Resistance, Supreme Leader Snoke. Go pick this up. Next is Gotham City Monsters. So, City of Bane is happening, and they freely admit the City of Bane is happening, and Bane's dealing with the main part of Gotham, but there's a suburb called Monster City that I didn't know this existed. Like, I don't think I've ever read about Monster City. And so they're sort of dealing with their own thing. Killer Croc is looking for a job. iVampire has showed up, which I don't remember seeing iVampire in the longest time. He looks like if I had to peg his look, I'd say he looks like knockoff Morbius from the Marvel Universe is what he looks like.
Yeah.
So, and then it's got Orca and, Clay Lady. And they also, and Frankenstein. And Frankenstein is a character that, I don't know, if you've read DC Comics for a while, you've probably encountered this character. He was in Sideways for a bit when they were in the Dark Multiverse. He's been in a lot of stuff. The character is great because it's essentially Frankenstein's monster, but he's so deep
and witty, and his dialogues are beautiful, and he really, really steals the show. Granted, I liked Killer Croc stuff too. Like, humanizing Killer Croc, it's always a good feeling when they do that. But the Frankenstein stuff just absolutely steals the show. I had a great time with it, honestly. Gotham City Monsters issue number 1. It's a 6-issue series. It was a fun run. I wasn't confused. The art was on point. The dialogue was perfect. Honestly, the dialogue was some of the best stuff I've read maybe in a few weeks. It was a fun ride. But you have to really like the monsters motif. So if you don't like the monsters motif, this is probably not your jam. Next is Captain Marvel. So if you don't know, Captain Marvel's been dealing for a few issues with,
Blood God?
No. No, not a blood god, although that would be cool to see. A knockoff version of Captain Marvel called Star. Star appeared on the scene. She seemed to have very similar powers. No one could figure out where she came from. Well, that mystery has been solved, and the mystery is she's stealing them from Captain Marvel.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you know Captain Marvel, you know there are a few things that really tick her off, and stealing her powers is kind of one of the big no-nos.
Rogue.
So, yeah, shocker. Yeah, Rogue. Keep your hands off Captain Marvel, Rogue. Anyways, so this is Thompson, Carnero, and Bonvillain. I haven't read a few issues of Captain Marvel, but I was not confused. Had a really, really good time with the story. The art was amazing. Honestly, I liked everything about this. So, yeah, this was a pretty good issue. So go pick this up. Issue number 10 of Captain Marvel was outstanding. Oh, God. We need to talk about this for a lot of reasons. Young Justice has decided... Well, they haven't decided. They were fleeing Gemworld, and they sort of got stuck jumping from universe to universe in the multiverse. And they've wound into some wild ones, but... in fact, I think my favorite was the Kingdom Come one, where they show up there and Teen Lantern's like, look, every universe has got news. We just need to check their news and we can see what's going on. And they're talking to the Superman that's there. And they show the shot of, like, in Kingdom Come, Superman standing over Shazam on the ground. And they all, like, look at each other concerned and they're like, we have to go. It was so good. So, yeah. This is Bendis at his best, in my opinion. This is Bendis, Timms, and El-Taib, I think is the name. Everything about this was fun. So they wind up on Earth 3. Now, if you don't know Earth 3, this is where the crime syndicate hangs out, and pretty much everyone's got a counterpart, whether or not they're good or evil, sort of stands to reason. It all gets kind of wild and confusing, and this is no exception. Seeing their counterparts was great. There's a counterpart to Spoiler, Stephanie Brown, was great. There's a counterpart to pretty much all of the Young Justice team, including Ginny Hex. Ginny Hex has got a counterpart. I think the only one that didn't was, what's her name, Sapphire? Sapphire from Gemworld. She did not have a counterpart. Not yet, anyways. So it was awesome. It was really fun to see. But, I mean, the crime syndicate stuff, the evil universe, people are always really fun. Just reminds me of that old Star Trek episode where everyone was evil, but they had the goatee.
The Mirrorverse.
Yeah, the goatee made them evil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that in the Beatniks time? Was that why they did that?
Maybe. I mean, they kept it going.
But evil versions of cool heroes are always fun to me, and this is no exception. If you like that sort of stuff, you'll love it. But, well, honestly, you'll love this. More importantly, well, Tim Drake encounters another version of himself that calls himself by a different name. And this might be leading to a new Tim Drake. I don't know.
Right.
We did see the costume. The costume got leaked, and we didn't like it. And if you know what I'm talking about, they used a lot of brown, and it sucked. But it is what it is, you know? I don't know if that's what they're going for. I hope that's not the final thing, but we'll have to wait and see. As for everything else, everything about this was awesome. It was just great. So Young Justice... other Young Justice news. We know in a couple issues they're going to have a new member. And that new member is one of my favorite new characters. Who's it going to be, Yogi?
Naomi?
Naomi is going to be in it. So, Young Justice is going to be her new home. Issue number 8. Go get on board with this. It's awesome. It's absurdly cool. Next is another really absurdly cool book, and that's Black Cat. And I love that with this character, they pull no punches with this character at all. Like, she went and robbed Sanctum Sanctorum. Yeah, Doctor Strange's home. She went and robbed it.
She had a good plan. They used a wizard. What did they call the wizard? Do you remember? It was something funny.
Oh, I thought that's what they called it. Like something Tolkien-esque or something.
Yeah, it was something funny. So in this one, they plan to go rob the Fantastic Four. That's not too. That's not the brightest move, and it works. It works. Everything about this is fun. It feels like a caper. She's sweating at times, like her teammates are sweating at times. It's fun. It's just fun. It feels like, I don't know, kind of like Ocean's 11 with superhero characters is what it feels like to me. This is McKay, Forbin, and Reber, and this is issue number 4. Go pick this up. More importantly, you get good old Yancey Street. Yancey Street in this issue. Number 4, Yancey. Go pick it up. Next book on our list is Reaver. Reaver is essentially the Dirty Dozen in fantasy if they were a half dozen, and they were injected with a poison that needed an antidote every few hours to survive. So pretty much they're on the trail of the big bad, and it's led them to this town, and they need to behead a guy and steal some other stuff out of the town. Honestly, this story is great, but this story really is great because of one character, and that's this gal here who is the Skin Eater. She's blunt, she's crass, she's OP. She's just a fun character. I honestly feel like without that character in this story would fall apart. So yeah, it's kind of wild like that. This is Justin Jordan, Rebecca Isaacs, and Alex Guimarães. Honestly, this story's really good. If you like fantasy, you'd be perfectly happy with this story. The art is amazing. Like it's really good art. It doesn't feel generic, which I hate to say it. I like those Dungeons and Dragons comics, but the art, something about the art kind of feels generic to me, and it totally doesn't. If you can tell from this cover, like they do a really, really good job with this. So anyways, Reaver, if you need some fantasy, the Reaver by Skybound, the Skybound Image imprint is a really, really good showing this week. It was funny too. Like I laughed out loud multiple times. Next is a character I don't know how to feel about, and I struggle with this one. And that's Prodigal Son, which is a character named Prodigal. Like, that's his name, Prodigal. And he's pretty much overpowered as heck. He has a bunch of elemental powers. He can fly. He's indestructible. He brags about how overpowered he is. He talks about his dad being the king of a planet. And he's really cocky. And the first Prodigal Son was what, the Khazar crossover? And he got beat. He's gotten beat every issue. For somebody who claims to be like one of the most powerful people in the universe, he gets beat a lot. Now, it's gotten funny, though. That's the weird thing about it. Like, this issue, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. Kind of knew how it was going to work out, and then it didn't. Like, it went exactly the opposite. So basically, his brother, he thinks his brother has killed his father, and it goes from there. And they sort of deal with that. And does he get beat? Yeah, he loses in seconds to the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's pretty hysterical. But it didn't play out how I expected. Like, this is the spoiledest, brattiest, like, OP hero I've ever seen. Like, he loses the day and then decides he's going to enact some revenge on a whole planet. And it's pretty funny. I've grown to the point where I like seeing that character get beat. And I think that's the point of it, is to see him get beat and then throw a temper tantrum and just run off to do his own thing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they're going with it, but I don't hate it. That's all I'm going to say. And that's David Mana and Grundichern, and that's the Prodigal Son Guardians of the Galaxy. I have no idea what they're doing with this character, but this issue really worked for me. I laughed out loud at the end, and that's saying a lot. Go check this out. Next is Gwenpool Strikes Back, and honestly, if you need a comical read, this one had me in stitches. I laughed the whole way through. Granted, you know, the Gwenpool thing feels like a gimmick, but then again, Deadpool stuff feels like a gimmick at times. So what do? Well, she hires Deadpool to help her flesh out her power set, and it goes from there. She needs a good cover, so she needs to go into the Fantastic Four and, I guess get a little action on, so if you can't tell from the cover. And that's pretty much most of the issue. It was funny. It was hysterical. At one point, you have Deadpool wanting to fight Thing and it not going as planned, and that everything about it was great. This is Williams, Baldion, and Alberto. But you know what? You have to know what you're getting into. You're essentially getting a female version of Deadpool in here, so it's going to be hijinks and it's going to be comedy. And it's going to be wild and weird at times. And if you don't like breaking the fourth wall, you might not like it. But I loved it. I had a good time. I think we laughed so hard about that last issue because her high school photo was the most awkward thing I've ever seen.
Rogers quote.
With the Steve Rogers quote. Yeah. So issue number 2 of Deadpool. Issue number 2 of Deadpool. Issue number 2 of Pink Deadpool. I mean Gwenpool. Yeah, Gwendolyn Pool. Go pick this up. It was actually a really good read. Next is, man, I'm running out of steam and I'm trying not to. Next is Miles Morales. Now this is a pivotal issue. This is issue number 250 for Miles Morales. But really, it's issue number 10 of this particular run. And this is Ultimatum and a Friend. And now if you can't tell from the cover who that friend is, that's Green Goblin from the Ultimates universe. Which should be destroyed, I think. I'm not sure if it's come back. Because he got moved over to 616 after that whole Convergence thing, and I thought it was destroyed. But there are some characters from the Ultimates universe that are making their way over, and it's kind of wild. His Rogues Gallery is not quite dead. This is Saladin Ahmed and Javier Garan and David Curiel. And honestly, this is an amazing read. Like, everything about this Miles run has been fun. The art has been great. I haven't been bored. Not one issue has felt stagnant to me. And that's saying a lot. Just had the best time with this. And this issue in particular, it's Miles' birthday, and then he winds up having to deal with that stuff and track sort of some of his Rogues Gallery from the Ultimates universe. And that was cool to see. So go pick this up. If you're a Miles fan, if you're even slightly a Spider-Man fan, issue number 10 of Miles Morales is awesome. Go pick that up. Next is Invisible Woman, issue number 3. And this pretty much follows old Sue Storm's old life of being a spy. And she had to deal with, another spy that she knew that they interacted with. And it turns out he lied to her about his life and lied to her about a lot of stuff. And so she's trying to track him down and figure out exactly what's going on. And it's cool. It's cool. Not just for a lot of reasons, but they're... Mark Waid is sort of playing with her power set a bit, which, Sue Storm, they've played with her power set quite a bit. It's pretty darn fleshed out over the years, but it's nice to see that they're sort of going back to some of that stuff. It was fun. And more importantly, like, the way they draw her fight scenes, it works. And I like this whole spy cloak and dagger stuff for Sue Storm as a character. It really works well. So anyways, Invisible Woman issue number 3. It's not too late to get on board with this. I don't think you would be confused with this. She's just basically, all you need to know is she's tracking her old partner, and he hasn't told her the truth. That's it. That's all you go with. The art is just absurdly cool, and the writing is great. Next is the Riddler. Now, the Riddler, he doesn't get a lot of respect, I think, in the DC universe as far as being Batman's Rogues Gallery character. I keep saying Rogues Gallery today. Anyways, as being part of Batman's sort of campier villains, he doesn't get a lot of respect. But I love the Riddler, and I think it goes back to, I think I was telling you before, there was like an 80s one where he was sort of dancing around on a giant typewriter and talking about like things he's dealt with, and then he sort of got sad and then said everything changed when the Joker killed somebody. And I've loved that character ever since that moment. And so in this one, he's sort of teaming up with good old King Tut because neither of them get such respect, and they're both hurt that Lex passed them by in the offer. He didn't show up or give them an offer. He just decided that they were D-listers and not worth it. And Lex pops up and sort of explains that to Riddler, and I think he's forever changed Riddler. And it's kind of sad how it happens. It's sad, it's touching, it's heartwarming. I want to know what's going to happen with Riddler, but man, honestly, you really need to see it. It sort of pulled at my heartstrings. This is, that's why it did it. That's why it did it. It pulled at my heartstrings because it's old Russell. Russell, who is writing the Wonder Twins, who I think is a very deep topic on the prison system. Same guy who wrote Snagglepuss, which was a deep topic about McCarthyism and homosexuality during the time of McCarthyism. And then it was the Flintstones. He wrote the Flintstones, which was the middle-aged man's socio-political take, pretty much, on society. And he's such a good writer. That guy can bring so much emotion out. And he did it. He did it. I know this is a one-shot. I'm pretty sure this is a one-shot. I wanted more of this book. I wanted to know what happened after the last page. So anyways, Riddler, You're the Villain, issue number 1. Who's Afraid of Apex Lex? I like that. Go pick this up. If you like the campy Batman villains, you will love this. It was just fun.
You're a DC head. Now, a while back, didn't Riddler actually help out Batman and everybody, like, solve crimes every now and then? Like, he put away his crime-like ways and then...
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. Because in City of Bane, he's acting like a detective right now.
Yeah.
But I don't remember him helping Batman all that often.
Huh.
I could be mistaken, though. I mean, I have brain damage. But I can't remember. If you remember that storyline, let me know, because that sounds like pretty fun. Next is another Wonder Comics book, and that's Wonder Twins. And go figure, we were just talking about Russell. But this is old Russell and Byrne, who they are such a good team. The art is on point. Again, it's gone from a statement of like the prison system to sort of a statement of heroism and what people deal with on the day-to-day basis and who the real heroes are and what constitutes a real hero and why you do the job. And I loved it. Loved everything about it. I thought the Wonder Twins was going to end at 6. Wasn't it going to end at 6? I seem to think it was going to end at 6. But it's going up to 12, and I'm happy for that. This is a great issue. If you don't know anything about these characters, all you need to know is that, Jaina and Zan, they can transform into anything water and anything animal. That's all you need to know. They're from another planet, and they're sort of working as interns at the Justice League. That's it. And you'll have a good time with this book, trust me. It's great. Everything about this run has been fun. We have a lot of issues on the shelf. Come pick them up. They're awesome. Next is Flash. And we found out in the last issue that old Black Flash has showed up. Black Flash, yeah. Black Flash. Black Flash, if you don't know, is both an omen and a sinister thing. Because whenever he shows up, a speedster dies. That's pretty much it. And in the last issue, he showed up not to kill speedsters, but to kill the other Force users. So the Still Force user, the Strength Force user, and the Sage Force user. And that led to one of them betraying the other ones, and this is sort of the fallout from it. Black Flash is still in play, so that's kind of a scary thing. He's pretty much one of the worst things to show up in a Flash comic. So if you love Flash, trust me, you will have an absolute awesome time with this issue. It was fun. It's wild. It's scary. It's good. And that's issue number 78. Oh, and the reason, I forgot to mention it, but the reason the Black Flash is sort of destroying the other Force users is because their presence on Earth is destroying the Speed Force. So that's the ticking clock of the story. And it's a good story. It's pretty darn good. So You're the Villain, Evil Unleashed, Flash number 78. And that's our show for the week. Let's do our drawing real fast. This is where I stall until I get the... I guess I could reach it. Thanks, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I can't bend anymore.
Yeah, me neither. I'm flexible like a stick.
Right.
That's it. I don't do yoga, I do yoga. No! That's you! That's Yogi! That was a weird...
What number you got? 354?
354. I'm all red now.
Mike Basile, you won.
Mike Basile, you won. 162.
Jung Kim.
Young Kim. 151. I'm still laughing, dude.
Shalandra Deveron.
I think that's Shalandra Devereaux.
Devereaux?
Devereaux? I don't know. It's a wild name. Shalanda D.
It'll be in your file.
You haven't won a poster. You've won art from Lariance Iriarte and his son.
Go ahead and flash that.
This is Robin. That's from his son. This is Batman, and this is Joker. So you can come pick one of these up if you like them.
Yeah.
Or a poster if we have posters. That's fine too.
Great.
And that's our show for this week. And so, I guess we'll see you next week.